The scanners screamed once. Then, they went silent. Executor Vaca stared at the main display of the Varkeen patrol cruiser Iron Mandate. A moment ago, the space ahead had been empty. Dead stars. Cold dust. Nothing worth recording. Now there was something, a shadow where nothing should exist. No heat signature, no engine flare, no energy return, just a vast shape floating between dead stars, like space itself had forgotten to erase it. That is not possible, Vaca said calmly, though his claws tightened against the command rail. The sensor officer tried again. Then, again. Each scan collapsed into static, as if the object swallowed information itself. Size estimate, Vaca asked. The officer hesitated. Larger than our capital stations? Possibly larger than any ship on record. Silence spread across the bridge. The Varkeen Authority did not fear large things. Large things could be controlled, dismantled, or displayed as trophies. Only one thing worried Vaca. This region was cleared, he said. Nothing survives here. Yet the ship did. Vaca leaned forward. Bring us closer. As the cruiser approached, the shape resolved into smooth curves, not angular warplating. No weapons, no visible hangars. No insignia of any known empire. The whole looked deliberate. Elegant, wrong. This is a relic, Vaca decided. A failed civilization. Drifting until we found it. A prize, a symbol. The Authority ruled by proof. Proof that resistance was pointless. Proof that every culture eventually fell. This ship would be perfect. Prepare a boarding team, Vaca ordered. I will lead. A junior officer dared to speak. Executor. If it is active, it is silent, Vaca cut in. Silence is submission. The boarding shuttle docked without resistance. The ship opened itself. That alone should have warned them. The air inside was breathable, clean, warm. Gravity aligned perfectly to Varkeen standards. Lights activated as they entered. Soft and white. Following their movement like the ship was watching, this vessel is maintained, an engineer whispered. Vaca smiled. Then its masters are gone. They moved through halls wider than city streets. Transparent walls revealed entire environments beyond them, forests, frozen mid-wind. Oceans held perfectly still, cities preserved as if waiting for citizens who never returned. Art floated in gravityless chambers. Music echoed faintly. Complex. And emotional in a way Varkeen logic found uncomfortable. This is a museum, Vaca said with satisfaction. A monument to failure? The soldiers did not answer. Some slowed their steps. Some stared too long. That displeased him. Focus, Vaca snapped. Catalog everything. This all belongs to the Authority now. They reached the cryo vault. Thousands of pods stood in perfect rows. Life signs. Active. The realization sent a ripple of unease through the squad. These beings are not dead, the medic said. They are sleeping, Vaca laughed softly. Then history has preserved them for us. One pod stood apart from the others, marked differently. The translator hesitated, then rendered the title. Arc Continuity Command Eyes gleamed. A leader, he said. Wake this one. The sub-executor shifted nervously. Executor. Reviving command personnel is risky, Vaca turned slowly. Risk creates obedience, he said. Wake him. Cold. That was the first. Thing Elias Ward felt. Not pain. Not fear. Cold, followed by motion. Then data. His neural implant screamed warnings straight into his mind. Unauthorized access. Foreign life forms detected. Arc integrity compromised. Continuity breach. Elias did not move. He let the pod finish opening. The air touch his skin. Let the aliens think him weak. He opened his eyes. Tall figures, heavy armor. Weapons powered and ready. At their center stood one who radiated ownership. The translator fed Elias a voice. "You are the last echo of a dead people," Vakar declared. "Kneel, relic. You now serve the Varkeen authority." Elias looked at him. Really looked at the stance? The weapons? The arrogance. At the soldiers standing between him and the other. Pods. His people, his responsibility. He took a slow breath. "Interesting," Elias said softly. The word confused Vakar. "What did you say?" the executor demanded. Elias placed his hand against the inner rim of the pod, a gesture so small, no one stopped him. The arc responded instantly. The sound came first, not loud. Precise, a harmonic frequency tuned exactly to Varkeen, neural balance. The soldiers collapsed where they stood, weapons clattering uselessly against the floor. Vakar screamed as his vision shattered into light and noise. Blast doors slammed. Shut around the cryovault. Atmospheric pressure shifted. Containment engaged. Elias stood. His legs trembled, but he stayed. "Upright arc," he said quietly. The ship answered in his mind like a familiar voice. Command recognized. Continuity restored. Awaiting orders, Elias looked down at the unconscious invaders. At the sealed doors. At the sleeping future behind him. "We are not a museum anymore," he said. Outside the vault, alarms began to spread across the ship. And far away, the Varkeen Crudeso waited, unaware that it had just awakened something that refused to stay silent. The arc changed its tone. Not an alarm. Not panic. Awareness. Deep inside its structure. Systems that had slept longer than most civilizations had existed came online one by one. Power flowed through channels older than stars. Memory cores unlocked. Defensive subroutines blinked from dormant to alert. Elias Ward felt it all through his implant. The ship was not angry. It was focused outside the sealed cryovault. Red indicators bloomed across the Ark's internal map. Unauthorized life signs. Weapons. External vessels still docked. A hostile occupation. Elias exhaled slowly and forced his muscles to move again. Cryosleep left a deep ache behind the eyes and a weakness in the limbs. But training carried him forward. "Arc," he said, "steady now. Status. Primary systems, stable. Hull integrity, intact. Foreign vessel docked at Hangar 3, estimated hostile personnel on board, 27. Arc weapons. Offline by charter restriction." Elias frowned. "How long since last command?" 1,311,000 years. The number landed like a physical weight. Everyone he had known. Every voice. Every city. Dusts. He closed his eyes for half a second. Then opened them again. Grief could wait. Survival could not. "Release the vault atmosphere lock," he ordered. "Non-lethal containment on all intruders." Confirmed. The blast doors slid open with a soft hydraulic sigh. Elias stepped into the corridor. Executor, Rao Vakar, woke to humiliation. His limbs felt wrong. His vision stuttered between clarity and blur. Around him, His soldiers lay scattered across the floor like discarded tools. He tried to rise. The floor shocked. Him. Enough to kill. Enough to teach. What is happening? Vaca roared. Lights! Shifted along the corridor, guiding Elias forward like a path. Elias stopped a few paces away. You boarded a sovereign vessel, Elias said. You ignored warning protocols. You attempted forced command extraction. Vaca bared his teeth. You are alone? Elias tilted his head slightly. You are mistaken? He gestured. The walls changed. Transparent alloy revealed the biodomes, beyond entire worlds preserved in quiet beauty, forests, oceans, living ecosystems untouched by conquest. This ark carries the memory of thousands of species. Ilias. Kanjurt is defended by design. Vaca struggled against the field holding him down. Defended by illusions? Elias met his gaze. No, by intent. In the Ark's command chamber, systems finished coming online. Environmental drones. Detached from maintenance bays, silent and efficient. Not weapons, but tools repurposed in moments. Magnetic clamps locked onto intruder weapons. Neural dampening fields, stabilized, hostile. Nervous systems. Every move precise, controlled. The Ark did not need violence. It needed compliance. On the Varkeen, Cruiser Iron Mandate, confusion spread. Executor Vaca is unresponsive. No weapons fire detected. All boarding team vitals still active but immobilized. The captain stared at the sensor readouts. The Ark still showed no weapon signatures, but now it showed something else. Communication. A signal threaded directly into their command network. Bypassing security like it did not exist, a calm human face filled the main display. This is Commander Elias Ward, he said. You are in violation of Ark continuity law. The bridge went silent. The captain laughed nervously. You have no authority here, Elias nodded. That is correct. Which is why I am issuing a warning, not a sentence. A pause. Undock your vessel. Leave this system. Do not return. The captain's mandibles tightened. You cannot enforce this. Ilias leaned closer to the camera. You are correct, he said softly. Not yet, Vaca snarled, as the containment field tightened again. You think this ends with words? He hissed. The authority will come. Fleets will come. You are alone, in a dead region of space. Elias crouched so they were eye level. You see a relic, he said. A survivor, out of time. Vaca laughed weakly. You are nothing. Ilias stood. That is what your kind always says at the beginning. He turned away. Ark, Ilias said. Initiate contingency awakening. Beta and Gamma. Confirmed. Reviving continuity crew. Far below, 2 more cryopods began to glow. Dr. Lena Ivers woke to the smell of rain. Artificial rain. Her eyes snapped open. Astounding, she breathed, even before she saw the aliens unconscious in the corridor. Elias offered her a hand. She took it without hesitation. You look terrible, she said. You overslept, he replied. Engineer Marcus Halley woke angry. Very angry? Who touched my ship? He demanded. Before the pod fully opened, Elias smiled for the first time. We'll explain on the way, he said. We have visitors, Marcus. Took one look at the Ark's diagnostics and whistled low. They forced entry? He muttered. That's rude. He looked at Elias. You thinking what I'm thinking? Elias nodded. The Ark was built to preserve life, Elias said. But survival sometimes requires education. Marcus grinned. Oh, he said. I can teach. As the Varkeen cruiser pulled away, battered pride burning hotter than engine's. A message flashed across its systems, coordinates. Dozens of them. Worlds marked as pacified. Worlds stripped silent. A final line followed. You are not the first to come here. You will not be the last to leave changed. In the dark between stars. The Ark adjusted its orbit, and for the first time in millions of years, it began planning for war. The Ark did not chase the Varkeen cruiser. It did something far worse. It remembered deep within its archive cores. Ancient star maps unfolded, cultural records reassembled. Political histories layered themselves into meaning. Elias stood at the center of the command chamber, while light wrapped around him like a living map of suffering. Red markers bloomed across the projection. Occupied systems. Silenced worlds. Broken species. Lena studied the data in silence. Her expression hardened. With every new layer, they didn't just conquer, she said quietly. They erased. Marcus crossed his arms. Standard Empire behavior, he muttered. Kill culture first. Makes the rest easy. Elias nodded. That ends now. The Ark chimed. Incoming transmission. Passive signal detected. Origin. Calthus Minor. Signal strength weak. Encoding unstable. Elias turned. Play it! Static filled the chamber. Then a voice, frightened, but alive. If anyone can hear this, we are still here. We remember. The message cut off. Lena's breath caught. That language, she said. It's not dead. I've seen fragments in the archive. The Cathari Marcus frowned. Weren't they listed as fully pacified? They were, Lena replied. 2 centuries ago. Elias straightened. Send a reply. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Careful. Once we do this, there's no hiding. Elias met his gaze. We stopped hiding when they boarded us. On Calthus Minor, the sky never fully cleared. Industrial haze clung to the ruins of once bright cities. Towers stripped of ornament rose like bones from poisoned soil. Beneath one of those towers, in a chamber lit by stolen power, Lyra of the Cathari Resistance froze. Her receiver crackled. Not Varkeen? Encryption? Something else. Clear.com.Caltheus Minor. The voice said. This is the Ark. You are not alone. Lyra's hands trembled. Voices echoed behind her. Dozens of rebels stared as the signal repeated. We remember you, the Ark said. Your songs. Your science. Your colors. Someone wept. Lyra swallowed hard. Prove it, she whispered. The reply came instantly. Projection bloomed into the chamber. Sky. Golden oceans. Winged figures dancing between floating cities. Their lost home. Lyra fell to her knees. Back aboard the Ark. Lena's fingers danced across the console. I'm not just sending history, she said. I'm sending identity. Marcus leaned in. And me? Elias looked at him. What can you give them? Marcus smiled slowly. Hope, with teeth. He pulled up. Schematics, simple ones. Devices built from scrap. Tools disguised as maintenance components. Varkeen power cells have a flaw, Marcus explained. They prioritize output over stability. This mod forces a feedback loop. Turns their own rifles into dead weight. Lena hesitated. We're arming them. Marcus didn't look away. We're leveling the field. Elias considered both of them. Send it, he said. But warn them, this is resistance, not revenge. The response from Caltheus Minor was not immediate. When it came, it was louder than any signal. Cities flickered. Factories went dark. Garrisons exploded not in firestorms, but in precision strikes. Across the system, Cathari workers laid down tools and picked up memory. The Ark watched as resistance cells rose from shadows. One world. Then another. Signals began appearing uninvited on the Ark's sensors. Broken languages, forgotten names, whispers of rebellion. Marcus whistled. They're talking to each other. Lena smiled sadly. They were never really silent, just waiting. Far away, Executor Vakar stood before his superiors, rage barely contained. The Ark is not a relic, he growled. It is a weapon. Chain murmured. A single ship? One official scoffed. Armed with words, Vakar slammed his fist down. Words ignite fires. Fires spread. Silence followed. Finally, a figure stepped forward. The Ark has declared itself an embassy, the figure said. That changes the equation, Vakar snarled. Then burn it? Orders were given. Fleets began to move. On the Ark, alarms did not sound. Instead, a quiet tone pulsed through the command chamber. Marcus looked up. We've got company. Elias studied the tactical display. Red icons multiplying at the edge of the system. Not just one fleet, Lena whispered. There? Committing. Elias placed his hands behind his back. Good, he said. Marcus blinked. Good. Elias turned toward the vast projection of rebelling worlds. They believe overwhelming force ends problems, he said. We will teach them something else. The Ark adjusted its positions, lipping into the shadow of the dead star dot lights. Dimmed dot systems folded inward. Marcus grinned. You know, he said, for a museum ship, we have a lot of tricks. Elias's eyes reflected starlight. This was never just a museum, he replied. It was a promise. Outside, the first Varkin fleet crossed the system boundary, and the Ark waited. The Varkin fleet arrived in silence. No warnings, no speeches, no demands. Dozens of warships slid out of jump space like knives through water surrounding the dead star and the Ark hiding within its shadow. Their hulls were black and sharp, built for fear as much as war. On the Ark, lights shifted from blue to amber. Marcus leaned over his console. They're not scanning, he said. They already decided. Lena felt her stomach tighten. Extermination doctrine. Extermination doctrine. Elias stood still. At the center of the command chamber, his voice was calm. Numbers. 3 cruisers. 12 destroyers. Escort drones in the hundreds, Marcus replied. Enough to erase us in minutes. Lena looked at Elias. We can't fight that. Elias nodded once. We won't. Not like they expect. The first volley came without warning. Plasma fire tore through empty space. Slamming into the Ark's projected position, nothing happened. Marcus smirked. They just vaporized a ghost. Across the tactical map, Ark signatures bloomed 1, 5, 12. Then dozens, each identical in mass, energy, and movement. Decoys. The Varkin. Commander hesitated for half a second. That was all it took. Marcus snapped his fingers. Phase 1. Hidden among the false arcs, Small dark objects detached and drifted silently toward the Varkeen destroyers. Old mining charges, cold, invisible, too late. Explosions rippled along the destroyer line, not destroying them, but gutting. Engines, slicing weapon arrays, tearing command decks into chaos. One destroyer went dark. Then another. Lena stared. You crippled them? Marcus shrugged. Dead ships learn nothing. Broken ones spread fear. On the Varkeen flagship, alarms screamed. Report, the commander shouted. Multiple system failures. An officer cried. Unknown weapons. Non-lethal but catastrophic. The commander clenched his claws. Where is the Ark? The sensor officers swallowed. Everywhere. And nowhere. Back on the Ark, the victory lasted exactly 7 seconds. Lena stiffened. New energy spike? Marcus's grin faded. That's bad. Elias looked at the display. One ship had not slowed. The largest cruiser. Its hull glowed as internal systems reconfigured, dumping power into a single forward weapon. Marcus exhaled sharply. That's a Planet Breaker class beam. Lena whispered. They're willing to crack the dead star just to kill us. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. Then he nodded. Open channel. All frequencies. Lena hesitated. They won't listen. They will, Elias said. This isn't for them. Across the system, across occupied worlds, rebel cells, and hidden receivers, the Ark's signal burst outward. This is the Ark, Elias said, his voice steady. We are under attack. Images followed, the decoys. The crippled destroyers. The charging planet killer we cannot hold forever, Elias continued. But we will not stand alone. Marcus watched signals light up across the map. Calvis Minor. 3 border worlds. A mining colony that should have been silent. Ships began to move. Not fleets. Individuals, converted freighters, patched gunboats, stolen patrol craft. Lena felt tears sting her eyes. They're coming. Marcus breathed out slowly. Against that? Ilya smiled faintly. They're not fighting for us. They're fighting for themselves. The Varkeen cruiser fired. Space twisted. The beam punched forward. Annihilation aimed at the Ark's last known position. Ilya spoke softly. Now? The Ark vanished. Not jumped. Folded. Marcus slammed controls. Gravshare maneuver complete. We're behind the star's core debris. The beam tore through empty space and vanished into nothing. The Varkeen commander roared in fury. Find it. Kill it. But space was no longer empty. Ships dropped out of jump space, hundreds of mismatched vessels forming a rough, shaking wall between the cruiser and the Ark's hiding place. Rebels, the commander stared in disbelief. They dare. The first rebel ships died fast. Shield. Hulls shattered. Engines flared and vanished. But they didn't break formation. They closed ranks. Bought time. On the Ark, alarms blared as secondary systems strained. Marcus slammed a fist into his console. We can't let them die like this. Elias turned. We won't. Lena looked up sharply. You said we couldn't fight? We can't, Elias agreed. But we can speak. He nodded to Lena. She understood. The Ark's archive core opened fully. Across the system. Across every channel the rebels used. Something else spread. Songs, stories, memories of free skies and untouched oceans. Human histories of resistance. victories. Paid for in blood, but one. The fighting did not stop. But it changed. Rebel pilots stopped running. They rammed. They jammed. They laughed as they died. And more ships kept coming. On the Varkeen flagship, fear crept into the commander's voice. "This is not war," he whispered. "This is contagion." On the Ark, Marcus looked at the incoming sensor data. "Ilias. We've got a massive jump signature." Lena's breath caught. "Varkeen reinforcements?" Marcus shook his head slowly. "No. The signal was clean. Precise, Terran." Elias closed his eyes. "They heard us." Space ahead began to tear open, not violently, but smoothly, like a door opening, and something stepped through. Space tore open like cloth. Not violently. Not CHAOT, high CALLY. Precisely. The tear widened into a clean oval of light, its edges glowing blue-white. From it emerged a ship unlike anything the Varkeen had ever built, long-layered, covered in heat scars, and old battle markings. Then another dot, then 10. Then hundreds. On the Ark's bridge, every display flooded with new signals. Marcus stared. "That's a fleet?" Lena's voice shook. "Human fleet." Elias exhaled slowly. He had imagined this moment for years, wondered if it would ever come. "They answered," he said. The lead ship moved forward, placing itself between the Ark and the Varkeen planet Killer. It was massive, old, built for war. A voice cut across. All channels, clear and calm. "This is Admiral Reyes of the Terran Compact 9th Fleet." The Ark's translators didn't even need to work. "We received your message, Ark," the Admiral continued. "Sorry we're late." On the Ark, Marcus laughed short and disbelieving. "Late? You just changed history." The Varkeen commander froze. His senses screamed warnings. These ships were not elegant. They were ugly, layered, reinforced beyond logic. Weapons ports, the size of city blocks, rotated into place. "What are they?" he whispered. A junior officer answered, voice tight with fear. "Unknown design philosophy. Excessive redundancy. Armor density beyond projected limits." The commander clenched his claws. "Fire." The planet killer beam fired again. This time, it struck something solid. The Terran flagship's shields flared white-hot, then held. Cheers erupted across. "Rebel channels?" Marcus slammed the armrest. "They blocked it." Lena whispered, "That beam cracks worlds." Elias smiled, tired and proud. "Humans build ships the way they live." The Terran fleet responded. Not with one massive blast, but with discipline. Dozens of focused strikes hit the Varkeen cruiser's weapon systems. Not lethal. Surgical. Engines failed. Power bled out. The planet killer went dark. The Varkeen commander screamed. "All ships, engage." The battle exploded across space. Human ships moved differently. They didn't dodge gracefully. They absorbed hits, pushed forward, and fired again. Varkeen destroyers broke formation, overwhelmed by ships that refused to die when they should have. Rebel vessels surged behind them, braver now. Louder, the Empire's perfect formation collapsed into chaos. On the Ark, alarms flared again. Marcus looked up sharply. Boarding craft. Varkeen Marines, heading straight for us. Lena's hands tightened. They want the Ark intact. Elias turned. "Seal all corridors. Wake the drones." The Ark responded like a living thing. Doors slammed shut. Gravity shifted. Maintenance drones dropped from ceiling ports once peaceful. Now armed, the first boarding party breached an outer hatch. They didn't get far. Corridors? Filled with blinding light and sonic pulses. Marines dropped screaming. Weapons useless. One Varkeen officer managed to force his way into the Ark's inner chamber. He raised his rifle at Elias. "Stand down." The alien hissed. "You are nothing without your fleet." Ilias stepped forward. "Calm." "No," he said quietly. "We were nothing when we were alone." The floor shifted. Gravity flipped. The officer slammed into the ceiling and went still. Outside, the battle reached its peak. The Varkeen flagship tried to retreat. It never made the jump. Human interceptors tore into its engines, and rebel ships swarmed like fire. The Empire's symbol burned. Silence followed. Not peace, but shock, on occupied worlds across the galaxy. Broadcasts spread. The Empire bled. It could be hurt. It could lose. In hidden cells and silent homes, beings stood taller.
Ho!
Became dangerous. On the Ark's bridge, Marcus sank into his chair. That was just the first wave, wasn't it? Elias nodded. Yes. Lena swallowed. The Emperor won't accept this. No, Elias agreed. He'll come himself. A new signal appeared. Single, massive, unmistakable. Marcus's voice went quiet. That's the Imperial Core Fleet. Thousands of ships, more than anyone had ever faced. Admiral Reyes's voice returned. Ark, we're holding for now, she said. But when that fleet arrives, Elias straightened. Then this stops being a battle, he said. It becomes a choice. He turned to Lena. Prepare the broadcast. Lena hesitated. To who? Elias looked at the galaxy map. Every world the Empire had crushed. To everyone, he said. Space trembled. The final storm was coming, and the galaxy was watching. The Imperial fleet arrived like a wall of night. Thousands of ships poured out of hyperspace, blotting the stars. They were flawless, identical, cold. The final expression of an empire that believed order was the same as strength. At the center of it all sat one vessel larger than the rest, black and sharp, dash-edged. The Emperor had come. On the Ark's bridge, silence ruled. Marcus whispered, "That's not a fleet." "That's an execution," Lena replied. Elias stood tall, hands clasped. Behind his back, he felt the weight of history pressing down not just on him, but on every world watching this moment unfold. "Open all channels," he said. Lena hesitated. "They'll trace us." "They already have," Elias replied calmly. "Broadcast." Anyway, the Emperor's face filled every screen across the battlefield, ancient, scarred, furious. "Ark," the Emperor said, his voice echoing like metal grinding stone. "You have caused chaos. You have inspired rebellion. You have broken order." Elias stepped forward, his image replacing the Emperor's on thousands of screens. "We didn't break order," Elias said. "We exposed it." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You are few. We are endless." "Yes," Elias agreed. "That's why this matters." Across the galaxy, billions watched, workers in mines, soldiers in barracks, children in silence.
The
Ark's signal carried everywhere. "You taught the galaxy fear," Elias continued. "You told them resistance was pointless, that obedience was survival." He paused. "You were wrong. The Emperor raised a hand. The Imperial fleet powered weapons. Lena's voice cracked. They're charging everything. Marcus swallowed. Shields won't last 10 seconds. Elias didn't move. Do it. The Emperor commanded. Nothing happened. Confusion rippled through the Imperial Armada. Systems failed. Power flickered. Admirals shouted. What is happening? The Emperor roared. Kai's voice came through the Ark's coms, tight but excited. Remember those schematics we shared? She said. Turns out, a lot of worlds built them. Across, the Imperial fleet weapon core detonated not violently, but precisely. Ships lost engines. Command vessels went dark. The Emperor stared as his perfect formation unraveled. You armed them. He snarled. No, Elias said softly. We reminded them how. The rebel fleets surged, but Elias raised a hand. Stop, he said. The fighting slowed. Weapons powered down. The Emperor laughed bitterly. Mercy. After all this. This isn't mercy, Ilias replied. It's proof. He turned to the camera again this time, not looking at the Emperor, but past him. To every world listening, Elias said. This ends now. The Ark pulsed, data poured into every open channel. Records, evidence, names, proof of slavery. Cultural erasure. Mass executions. The Empire's lies collapsed under the weight of truth. Across the Imperial fleet, captains hesitated. Some powered down weapons. Some turned away, some surrendered. The Emperor's face twisted not with rage now. I fear you. We'll doom the galaxy to chaos, he said. Elias nodded. Yes. Then he smiled. But not silence. The Emperor's flagship powered its core overloading. If I fall, the Emperor hissed, I take you with me. Marcus shouted, he's going to detonate? Kai yelled, we can't stop it in time. Ilias closed his eyes. Send it? He said. Lina hesitated. Only a second, then transmitted the final command. Human ships moved. Not to attack, to shield. The Terran fleet surged forward, forming a wall between the Ark and the Emperor's ship. Rebel vessels joined more, battered. Brave. The explosion came. Light swallowed everything. When the glare faded, the Ark still stood, scarred, damaged, alive. The Emperor's flagship was gone, so was his empire. Weeks later, the galaxy was quieter but not silent. New councils formed, old worlds. Rebuilt, not perfect, never perfect, but free, on the Ark's observation deck. Elias stood with Marcus and Lena. We didn't win a war, Marcus said. We started something, Lena smiled. That's more dangerous. Elias nodded. And more human. He looked out at the stars, no longer empty. The Ark had crossed galaxies to preserve memory instead. Had awakened a future far away. On worlds that had once whispered hope in the dark, voices now spoke freely. Stories were told again, songs returned. And somewhere, deep in space, humanity stood not as conquerors, but as proof.